Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station. I'm your host, Roman. We have a terrific show planned for today. Don't forget to stay tuned for Warriors Talk at 6 p.m. right after the Drive at 5. It is back. Finally, right? I have my doubts, but I'm glad you guys are back in the flesh. 35 years strong. The Village returns. The African Festival of the Arts returning back to Chicago and is stronger than ever. We have the one and onlys here. So I'm going to go down the line. Please introduce yourself to the intellectual family, starting with you, sir.
Pleasure. William Scott, Senior Community Outreach.
Sabrina Scott, and I am Community Engagement and Outreach Coordinator.
Linda Jan, Community Engagement and Outreach Coordinator.
Okay, just a little tad. There we go.
Okay.
Now tell me, we're so happy here at Intellectual Radio to be a media sponsor of the African Festival, and it's glad to be back. Tell us the history of the African Festival and why is it so important to our culture? Starting with you, sir.
Well, I've been privileged with attending the 35-year run because one of the buildings I work with is right across the street where the festival has taken place from its inception right up to now, Washington Park, 51st and Cottage Grove. So I've been an attendee as just a private citizen and a promoter of the event with the senior groups that I work with. I consider it to be as iconic in Chicago as Bud Billiken's Parade, Black Women's Expo, and Taste of Chicago. It's just one of my favorites. I cannot conceive of missing the annual festival because it's the place to be Labor Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday this year. And every time you turn left or right, you're running into someone from your past here in Chicago. It's the great reunion epicenter of the city. That's why I'm just so pleased that it's returning this year. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. But it's just the place that I know I've enjoyed it for each of the summers. And I always go on a shopping spree for dashikis and African cowrie shell jewelry and headgears and other accessories there. The vendors are international in perspective. That's a few of the reasons why I'm just fired up.
Sabrina?
Well, for myself, the festival is like coming home. When you come home, you meet people who are like you, who are like-minded, all different types of crafters and vendors. As Mr. Scott said, not only international, but from across the United States. And so it's wonderful to come out and celebrate. The festival is basically part of our history. And so it's a good event, a good weekend event, a family event. And it's just wonderful to get out and be able to commune with the community.
One of the features of the festival is the idea of a village, which is something that we experienced the first time that Sabrina, I've been there many times. Sabrina just started coming recently in the last 5 years. And so we had the opportunity to take a walk around the festival when everybody else had left. And there were these lights everywhere. And it was just like an African village. So to me, it is an event that kind of galvanizes the Black community. And our vendors and visitors all appreciate and enjoy it.
You bring the wisdom into the festival, you have a lot of historical facts. Can you briefly tell us the historical nature and how did the African festival come about?
Well, once again, as I said, I have attended the majority of the now 35th annual festivals of the art as a private citizen. I was not part of what you might call it the Mayflower group or the founding fathers who thought of it and launched it, but I was quick enough on my toes to begin attending it when it was first positioned in Washington Park, but totally unaffiliated with the movers and shakers and creators really of it. That's just one example of how I don't sleep to what's happening in Chicago. So I would love, I'll have no inside information because I just met our wonderful Africa International House group a couple of years ago and began working with them, but I was not there at, I'd call it Plymouth Rock or coming over on the Mayflower for the exception, which was the point of your question. Unfortunately, I won't be able to contribute to that because I have no idea how it came into being, but I'm proud to say I wasn't slow on plugging into it year one.
Sabrina, Sabrina, you want to add to that?
Well, the festival began with our founder, Patrick Woodhigh, some 35 years ago. And I understand he had an African clothing store located in the High Park area called Windows to Africa. And from that, the idea of the festival and sharing our African goods and bringing other crafters in came out of that business as his idea.
Want to add?
Um, I think there were a number of like-minded people. One of the founders is actually our founder's wife, who worked with a number of our craft people, the drummers, the book people, the authors, the clothing people. There were a number of people of like mind that came together for this. So not much more to add than that. And yes, it started from I guess it was an import export store called Windows to Africa over on Harper in Hyde Park that it started. Yes.
The theme is 35 years strong. The village returns. Tell us about coming up with that theme to get people motivated about coming back to the African festival, Sabrina.
When you say the village returns, again, as Linda said, we we've always had this phrase in our community that it takes a village. And so when the festival didn't take place last year, it was a huge disappointment to the community, to many of our vendors. As you well know, that we host during the festival typically over 200 vendors. Um, Normally, depending on the space the footprint is. But the village returns, that means we're coming back together as a family, as a group, as a community. That's how I see it.
What does it mean to you?
Uh, Coming back together, as she said before, a lot of the vendors called and were very disappointed, as we are generally the last stop in terms of vendors who are looking to display their work. So they were kind of disappointed. And I don't know if you know, in recent times, some of the festivals have kind of fallen off. And they look forward to the African Festival of the Arts as that last chance to sell their wares. So coming back together is a big thing, not only for the people, the vendors, but also the founder of the program. This is his baby, and he wanted this to be a milestone in the history of the festival. So coming back together again is galvanizing the community around festival that, is a forerunner in actually neighborhood festivals.
I look at the flyer and it's colorful, but what jumps out to me are the performers back in the day. James Brown performed at the African Festival. Last year, you had Cameo. The following year, you had Cameo. The other years, you had SWV. The the lineup got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was wondering, like this year, my group, the SOS band, is performing. You know, tell me if you still care. I just love me some SOS band. When it comes to performance and iconic, who makes sure that history doesn't get erased?
Who makes sure that the history doesn't get erased? Um, I would say as Mr. Scott said, the inception of the creation of this whole festival, this idea, was a group of people that came together. And as you know, this probably happened during the Black movement, the Black Power movement. And we were, identifying with our ancestors in terms of Africa. And so the people who are instrumental in actually, we have a lot of old members that still work with the festival. These are the people that make sure, as I'm smiling because they made sure when we did pre-Kwanzaa that we knew the history. So we have a group of elders who make sure that we are in alignment with the vision of Africa International House.
Being an elder, no offense, but being an elder, how does that make you feel about festivals that's Black owned and operated, preserving the history of the culture?
Oh, it's invigorating really for me because from the first time I heard someone uh, mention the fact, how many times does a dollar change hands in our community before it leaves? And the answer was once, and it's all gone, to the landlords, the car dealers, insurance. The way I picked it up from the beginning, anytime I saw that it was going to be international, when I knew vendors were coming from the continent of Africa, right to 51st and Cottage Grove, seriously, across the street from a senior building, I said, so I'm not going to walk across an intersection to have a chance to browse. At that time, it was a 4-day weekend. It's 3 days this year. But the opportunity of browsing through the vendors, I was always fascinated with the eclectic assortment of vendors from around the world that appeared and the table setup. And it seemed like the old like State Street during the 20s, 30s, and 40s, as I've seen here in Chicago history. At one time, it looked like Times Square with masses of people. Well, each year that I've attended the festival, I've been impressed with the traffic, the ebb and flow, two-directional traffic, left side and right side, as people don't miss a table as they go from table to table to table in different clusters and sections, prearranged and pre-designed. So, of course, the entertainment part is always fabulous. But what interests me the most was the opportunity to go someplace where I could have my shopping spree of clothing, African jewelry, art, sculpture. It's just a great gathering for us, which I can't go anyplace else the rest of the year and see that you might call it under one roof. There it's under the sky, of course. So that's the aspect that has intrigued me with that great opportunity and the fact that someone would travel all the way from the continent of Africa to participate. That is impressive to me.
Sabrina, what happened to Everybody used to flock around and say, I'm going to the festival. Now it's not that, it's not there. How can we get that back at our culture? And it's not just the African festival, it's the Bud Billiken. I look at it, I remember, and I said this last week. I remember there was a time that people was like, I'm going to the Bud Billiken. People were sleeping outside to get a good spot, barbecuing. You look now, I'm seeing actual cars. At first, you didn't see that. You didn't see that during the 90s, early 2000s. Now you're seeing it when they do the wide shot. I'm like, I see a street. I see a little crowd here and there, but it used to be jam packed, filled with Black love. You say?
I say we just need to get back to our roots. We need to get back to our roots. We need to teach our children about our roots, and we need to make that important to our community.
Period.
Period. I think that's the most important thing, because if you don't teach your children,
The history will fall
then
off.
it gets lost. It gets faded away.
How can we get that back? Just teaching them or experience?
Well, definitely experience. You have to take them. You have to lead and guide and direct. And so not only the teaching, but the teaching of our history, talking about our ancestry. Most children know their grandparents, and grandparents, many grandparents in our community, they have a close relationship with their grandchildren. And so just talking to our children, telling them about our stories, about what we've experienced, what we've seen. And of course, definitely taking them to these events where they can have the same experiences. And those experiences can grow with them as they grow. And so they will have these experiences where they can pass on to their own children.
You mentioned, and this is overall, mention our story. Our story is important. But if schools are not teaching it, who will? Parents are more than likely are not teaching the importance of going to cultural events. You say to that.
I think it's a myriad of issues that kind of impact people going anywhere. I have the opportunity of going to a number of organizations, and at the end of each meeting, they are telling the audience to bring their children. This is a problem. I think the climate, the environment in which we live, we now have a senior arts program, and one of the issues with that is getting seniors to actually participate. And I think it comes from the fact that there is a certain type of fear that we have in terms of our community of coming out. There are policy changes. We know that now, back in the day when you go to the festival, as you say, people slept out. The city has curtailed the amount of time you can stay actually in the park. So when we look at families, families have kind of been impacted to the point that we are not the same. We don't have the same values or expectations. I think that technology too has impacted the way that we kind of live our lives. We find that I think that the technology kind of keeps us from being social. I've gone to parties where people all have their phones on. They're not even talking to one another. They got the phones on. So there are a number of things that kind of impact why people don't come out anymore. Actually, our children can stay in the house for hours, days without going outside. The way that they interrelate with others is impacted by technology. So I think, and we've seen this even before we talked about technology, is that the family is falling apart. It is hard to impart culture when we as a group of people don't hold the same values or even the same truths. And I think that is the reason why we see that a lot of people don't go.
I was listening to Sabrina and Linda, and I'd like to segue. Sabrina mentioned one of my favorite letters of the alphabet, the I word, for what I refer to as intergenerational. I'm just appalled with the way I have to work very hard to even put that word out there in our community. And I've reduced it down to those of us that have two hands can definitely bring two members of the family. And don't tell me all the cousins, nieces, nephews, grandkids, your own kids. And as Linda mentioned, you go to events, and at the end of it, they say, bring the children the next time. I've made that a hallmark, a signature outreach on a community activism that I'm involved in. Make it intergenerational, a phrase. I should even copyright it. It's just appalling to me. And I go to meetings, many meetings within a given week, 52 weeks a year for 59 years in Chicago, extremely active, nonstop for 59 years. The least commodity I see is young people. And that's why that I find that alarming. Linda also referred to a myriad of factors. The crime factor is real. I would never have thought that the same beach, 31st Street Beach, which is part of Black history that you referred to, Roman, my historical perspective on this. 1919, they killed a Black young man for swimming in the wrong side of the rope. We're out there this summer shooting each other. So, I mean, when I hear stuff like that, there's no way in the world I would think of going to a beach where I know they shot 5 times this summer, 5 times last summer, despite the aldermen and the police and all of that. So I would say the fear factor is part of it for sure. And then I have to indicate that there are some people who were so excited, shall I call it, about integrating into this so-called majority society that once the doors were open, they just forgot everything Black. The Black shoe store, the Black grocery store, the Black clothing store, because then they wanted to finally go downtown where they couldn't before and start trying on those Marshall Fields items. At one time in the same Chicago, Black people are not even permitted to try on the shoes and hats and dresses and coats. So when integration, desegregation, and those factors came in, there's some Blacks now that measure their life by how close they are to the majority population. Because like I know right now, you go up on the north side 7 days a week, any given hour, it's a thriving beehive of activity, including the parks. Washington Park and Jackson Park are empty almost 7 days a week, and I crisscross that as I go to and fro. So unfortunately, Bud's Billiken has declined in numbers. You are absolutely correct, Roman. There was a time where it started further north, went on much longer, had hundreds and thousands of spectators, and it seemed like endless participants that went deep into the afternoon, but there's been a diminution of that. And even though the Black Women's Expo is still increasing, thanks to the single-handed guidance of its founder, um, that's not been the story with Bud Billiken, unfortunately, even though Chicago Defenders and the Sangstead family are rehabilitating it, and they did a good job this year of the reviewing stand and some of the participants performing like they do in the Macy's parade. It was much better scripted this year than I've seen it in previous years, and I actually had the opportunity of attending and working it. So you're spot on when you look at, so where's the people, so as to say. But to get right to the marketing with the 12 days remaining, I really believe that it shouldn't take rocket scientists to get our famous plasters at their pulpits. If they just mention it, that's enough really right there when they hear it from their beloved pastor. before the collection plate goes around. If he says something about see you at the festival, they will be there, because some of them are really that magnificent types of followers to say. So between our pastors, between our staff, our elected officials, city, county, state, and federal, I see Brandon's picture right there, teacher. The public schools could announce it. They back in there today. Uh, they could come home with a flyer really with it. I believe that if what is a great opportunity, the village coming back together, if we really resuscitate the way we did it in the 50s, 60s, and 70s with boots on the ground. This year it was a dance for seniors called Boots on the
Oh,
Ground.
don't get me started with
I
that.
knew about boots on the ground I knew about boots on the ground where we sent soldiers and so forth.
Wanda is tired of it. I'm tired of it. I mean,
but I'm just saying.
I know they're going to play it during the African festival. I just have to bear it listening to it because if you hear my rants, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Right.
When it comes to the African festival, it's not just one entity. You mentioned about the senior arts program. You mentioned intergenerational. That combines. Arts is very important. Tell us the ideal of why it's important. And that's a layer because you have the African festival. Now you have this new program that the young, the old, bringing arts to them, not them coming to it. You're bringing it to them. And then express the Kwanzaa element during the holidays.
You want to answer that?
Well, Linda and I hosted Kwanzaa for the first time in 2019. And then, of course, as everyone knows, came the pandemic the next year. And we were not able to host Kwanzaa again until 22. Well, in 22, Linda and I started canvassing the senior community, going to senior facilities. And we wanted to get the seniors out more and have them more engaged. And so 22, we canvassed some buildings, dropped off flyers, spoke to coordinators, asked them would they bring their seniors out. We were successful to get one facility out. And the following year in 23, we started having the same conversation during Kwanzaa. And so I was telling Linda, I said, we got to, we having the seniors day. We got to get our seniors out. And again, we canvassed buildings. And this time we started going to the senior caps meetings and meeting with the liaisons there. And so just the two of us, as with that phrase you say you don't like, more boots on the ground. But anyway, the two of us going from building to building and talking to coordinators. And then Linda said to me one day, I tell you what, Sabrina, if the seniors won't come to us, we'll go to them. And that was the inception of the senior arts program. Since then, we began with 5 facilities. By March of 24, we were up to 11. By May, we were up to 17. The ideal is to take art out to our senior community because that is our main mission. And one thing that through the research, we have discovered that art helps stave off cognitive decline. And so one of our biggest things with the art is the cognitive piece, getting our seniors to stay actively engaged. The intergenerational piece. This summer we had an intergenerational event in July, the whole month of July, where we brought young people to some of our facilities and they planted gardens. So this year we have incorporated some health and wellness into our program as well. Everything we do goes back to that cognitive piece, keeping our singers actively engaged. so that they don't fall into this cycle of loneliness, not coming out, not participating in the community. And I think one of the biggest things that Linda and I saw, we saw it last summer, in the summer of 24, when we first began the gardening program, how the young people, and our young people were high schoolers, young adults, college people, who interacted with the seniors. And so, thus, talking to them, sharing their stories with the young people, we think that's vitally important.
And it goes hand in hand, which I said earlier, wisdom. And if you don't teach them and reach them, you'll have a chaotic response. I want to bring you into the conversation as well. Art is a big piece of us, Africans, Blacks, Haitians. And what I'm seeing is that one word can bring us together, but it's not happening. How can the art program bring other cultures, which, the African festival right here, other cultures from Cameroon, Kenyans, all down. We was there and I'm seeing everything, pictures of culture, artifacts, not only paintings, but statues, and sometimes silhouette. The word art in your program, how that's going to bring that culturalism back into our community?
That's an interesting question, one that we struggle with each day. One of the things that Sabrina and I have been doing lately at Africa International House is we have been hosting art exhibitions, trying to bring in young artists to come into our galleries. That is a problem, even with our senior program. We are trying to evoke some of the creativity of our seniors and actually take that and then have our exhibit. But when you're talking about other cultures, if you're talking about other cultures, and I know that art is a universal language, it is one thing that brings us together as a humanity, as a world. It does. But again, there are so many outside forces that kind of divide that. There are issues in the socioeconomic realm. One of the problems with one of our artists, he came in and he said he was no longer doing the chitlin circuit because in the Black community, Blacks were not coming out buying his pieces. We struggle.
You need to know his name. What he said, the Chitlin circuit? What
Yes.
does that mean?
So the chitlin circuit would be.
No, I know what it means, but I'm
Okay.
just saying, what made him or her,
Mhm.
the words that degraded us, come out of his mouth? When people say I'm going to the Chitlin circuit, that means hole in the wall places. So, and I could be wrong. Is he referring to the African festival? Is he referring to some of the Black events, hole in the walls?
No, he's looking at some of the local galleries.
But
That
sometimes you can, and I'm sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
Sometimes you have to take what you can get. I mean, I'm just being honest, because if you're an artist, this includes white artists, Hispanic artists.
Mhm.
They put their art in a hole in a wall, at a bar,
Mhm.
or even at a park district. I still want to know, what was he thinking, or what she was thinking of saying hole in the wall.
Okay. I imagine that when one spends a lifetime of creating, they want to be noted for their work. And it is somewhat, I don't want to say insulting, but it is somewhat a problem when you feel that you have poured all your all into it, and the most that you can get is $100 or less or whatever. And I'm sure it's not that bad, but and I think people want recognition for their work, not necessarily that they want to become rich, but they want people to understand all of the work and thought and creativity that went into that work. They want it to be seen by many, not just a few. And so I think it becomes somewhat depressing when you are unable. I know an artist that I met at Southside Art Center years ago, and I thought he was a great artist. And one of his favorite phrases when you enter the building is that I can teach anybody to draw. And he was very good. But it is kind of sad that he was never recognized for his work. Today, I understand he is kind of suffering with a little dementia, and he has never been noted for his work. Some people do art for the love of it, and they don't care what other people think. But other people would like to share that, and they would like to think that they've made an impact, even if it's monetarily. They want to be known for that. And so I think sometimes when we get frustrated, we may say things without thinking about how it sounds to others. But I think when it's said, we do kind of understand what he's saying. And it's not to just take a stab at anyone. It is just that if you spend the money um, on the pieces that you have to create, you need to at least get some money back. We've heard of the starving artist. Many of us don't want to be starving artists. We want that artist to make money for us. And so I think that's why he said it.
I agree, but here's the disagreement
Okay.
with this. Art programs such as yours, even though it's new, people can take advantage of it. There are ways to get the message out more than ever before. You have IntellectualRadio.com, Black owned and operated. You can do like an event space and put your art in there, or have an agreement with someone to say, can I put my art in there? And if somebody's interested, we can do a consignment. Those are some of the things that people, and I know it's about the money, but money is not everything. I mean, bills, like I told somebody this, hey, ComEd can't wait. The landlord can't wait. Certainly mortgage companies can't wait. There's the however component. It's a shame that Black people got to work twice as hard to get a leg up nowadays. Your thoughts, Sabrina?
It is. It really is. But I think where the art is concerned, I think one of the biggest things, like Linda said, is the recognition. If I'm an artist, I would at least feel noted and appreciated if I know somebody else appreciates my work.
Can they print their art in the local newspaper, the community newspaper? That's
Some can, but maybe some can't. And again, that comes back to that economic piece.
not necessarily. If you write an op-ed and say, this is the reason for this art, it's free. You have Intellectual Radio. Well, I can't speak for other hosts or Wanda, but they will showcase art. Like every time I go to the African Festival, I make sure I walk around and look at the art and interview that artist. And yes, it they have the oil scent, but
Yeah.
it's part of our culture.
I
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to note that many of our artists are very savvy when it comes to reaching out to other markets to sell their stuff. That's why not necessarily in the Black neighborhood. And this person that I spoke with is a long time artist who has been in the festival. His work is truly great. He's a metal artist. Um, but and we talk to vendors all the time. They go on, is it SD?
Right.
They go on Amazon. They go to local. We have a lot, especially in Bronzeville. We have a lot of new galleries that have popped up all over the city that they can get in. Uh, but those are the ones that they feel that they're going to make money. And as I said before, we art is a very competitive field if you're looking to sell. On my YouTube or my Facebook, I have young artists that are coming on because they see that I like art and they're showing their art. There are a number of markets in which, but again, it depends. And I know another artist who became a teacher, and he was uh, a comic book writer and illustrator, but he got a job. So it depends on the person. I don't want to pigeonhole anybody. Um, some people don't want to be starving artists. They just don't. And if that means that they're going to neglect coming into the community so that they can have, some money, then they will do that. While others, like I said, they really don't care what others think about it. I used to tell my students art is a form of a pastime in which it should be like you looking at your computer. If they dropped a bomb, you shouldn't even hear it. When your mom calls, you don't hear it. That's the consumption that you do when you have art. It is not something that you look at lightly when you look at artists. So again, I would just say that is a choice of the artist as to, how they feel about their art, something that they're willing to share or something that they feel is totally something that's very personal.
What's so interesting, uh, I participate in their art projects as a resident. I wear many different hats. If I'm not out saving the community and running all around Chicago with activism, quote unquote, when an art show or an artist is coming to the Rosenwall apartments where I reside, I went downstairs because I knew they were going to come with a real artist, and he works in different media. And I was pleased to see that the turnout at the Rosenwall Apartments, the group willing to come down and explore working with charcoal, explore working with watercolors. But they came with charcoal, they came with watercolors, they brought an actual artist. And the few at the Rosenwall that were interested, we definitely now can proclaim with a trumpet, we have a Rosenwall Senior Apartments art group that will definitely expand because we really enjoy those sessions when they are brought right to our front door. We have a 2-acre courtyard. We could have outdoor art exhibitions at the Rosenwall. We haven't had it in 9 years, not because I haven't asked about it. And two names, Roman, since you mentioned the history of this. Seriously, when Margaret Burroughs in 1940 got tired of the white galleries ignoring the black artists of Chicago, Bronzeville in particular, or the Black Belt. That's why they set up the Southside Community Art Center. I really feel either we're going to still keep tracing this integration, desegregation myth, or the phrase I like is do for self. If we want to do art, look at Andre and Francis Gauchard. Margaret pulled together the artists, and that building still exists, and it's still vibrant. And I worked with it for the last 19 summers through Gallery Gauchard. Andre and Francis Gauchard, honorary mayor and first lady of Bronzeville, they travel the world and come back with artists to put those artworks right there at 47th and Vincennes for the last 19 years. How do they market that? They have free double-decker rides. They have free trolley rides. They have sipping parties that go on there. They have music. It's a party atmosphere there. I've enjoyed it. FREE for free for 19 years. And it's always crowded. We just had one on the 15th. It's a wonderful Southside art event, which they, through their tenacity and their vision, have made it happen. So Linda is right on point. It's a question of, like this festival proclaims, the village just has to come together more tightly. And I think we need to just get off of this, shall we call it, preoccupation with the so-called American dream, which doesn't seem like they're going to acknowledge that we're part of the family after all these years. I don't worry about it at 85, but I don't miss what's going on at Gallery.
You 85?
85 years young.
You don't look 85. You're the definition of black don't crack.
Well, I think it's the excitement. Seriously, I have done charcoal sketching under their auspices and the artists they bring. They did watercoloring at the Rosenwald Village. I said Rosenwald Village. See that? At the Rosenwald building. And it was exciting for me to see residents there seriously exploring watercoloring under their auspices. The only way that could take place is when crusaders such as these ladies come out and literally bring it. But the part that I know you, with your wide range of political involvement here and economic, CHA with one finger could make that happen in every senior building if we had more aggressive marketing in the fixed enclaves, as I call them, of the CHA buildings. What we're doing at the Rosenwald with art, I'm proud of it. And all they have to say is, we're having another class next week, next month. They know I'll be there. They know if it's happening, I'm going to be there.
Sabrina, tell us about the 35th Annual African Festival of the Arts, the vendors, the bands, the culture. We're running out of time. How they can get in contact with you, so forth and so on.
They can call the office, Africa International House, at 773-955-8727. And they can...
Backwards. 2787.
Uh-oh.
I'm backwards.
Say it one more time.
773-955-2787.
Okay. If they want the art program to come to their community, you guys are open to it, correct?
That's correct.
How do they try and
reach
get you?
out to myself or to Linda.
And that's it?
That's it.
Okay. And I know you guys are preparing for the Kwanzaa event. Tell us a little bit more. And I know you guys are looking for vendors very quickly.
Okay. That will be December 12th. Again, we are honoring our seniors. We will be at the Grand Ballroom. We will have a breakfast fashion show. We will have line dance again, which was a big hit last year. And in the evening, we are going to have stepping.
Okay, there's that where my fans at type of thing. Very quickly, how they can get in contact with you down the line.
William Scott 24/7, 365. I just stay out there with gusto. 312-428-1908. And I'll go to any place, city or suburbs, in person to recruit, proselytize, and all the rest of it, because I'm truly passionate about this, and I'm convinced that that is some of the undergirding of this 85 contradiction. And which brings me to, I work with 300 seniors, 80, 90, and 100 plus, and all of them in the group have this same type of energy. University of Chicago is picking our brains and testing us to find out why we are so super exuberant when there's other seniors, as these ladies know, you can hardly get them to come down in their elevators, even when there's food and artists and all the fun and games. So it's to say right at their front door.
One more time.
Sabrina Scott, 773-322-7485, Community Arts Program for Seniors.
And it's the same, right? All right. Please, we'll be out there, Intellectual Radio, on Saturday. I'm looking forward to the SOS band. Okay, please support the African Festival, the 35th annual of the Arts, Chicago, Washington Park. And it's the Sunken Gardens this time. 5500 South Cottage Grove, Labor Day weekend, August 30th through September 1st. Wanda will be out there with me. We'll be dancing or whatever. Thanks to Wanda, our executive producer, Earl behind the scenes. You guys have a wonderful week.
You too. Thank you.